Busy show today. Let us know which headline is most intriguing to you. We try to offer you kind of like the today's version of the newspaper. The following on the network is just growing dramatically, and we're grateful for you, the viewer and listener, watching the show, guys. We understand the responsibility we have here. I want to talk on today's show the UVA Health and the community crossfire again. This one, I want to ask you a question. They're in the crossfire now because the Attorney General is in some ways kind of Judah. I don't want to say strong arming them. I guess it is strong arming them on. Would you say the crossfire that UVA Health faces right now is a fair crossfire? That's what I want to talk about today.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I don't want to make this about politics on whether minors should be going to hospital systems for gender transformation surgeries or medicines. That's not what this is going to be about. What this is going to be about is UVA Health is once again in the crossfire. Is this particular case fair to UVA Health and its thousands of employees? I want to talk on today's program. Guys, our business brokerage, the business we do with brokering transactions with business is exploding. I mean, it's absolutely exploded. We have a huge advantage, obviously, with the reach with the I Love CVille platform, which we're utilizing to broker these deals. We have some brokerage news to get to today on the I Love CVille show. I want to talk on today's program, duck pins and darts and a sports bar coming to Dairy Market. I was at Dairy Market yesterday picking up Dino's Pizza for my family, my wife and our two boys. We had Dino's pepperoni pizza yesterday. And I walked through Dairy Market, and it was quite empty. I'm not going to lie, it was quite empty. I want to talk about duck pins and darts and a sports bar coming to Dairy Market in the old South and Central location. Let me know, are we live on the group, J-Dubs?
Yeah, getting there.
Okay, let me know when we're live on the group. I want to talk on today's program. Nancy Muir has been voted the new Albemarle County GOP interim chairwoman. You don't need a comma there, J-Dubs. Once you get the group live, it's just Nancy Muir, new Albeco GOP interim chairwoman. You could strike voted. That could make the headline a little bit bigger. Allison Spillman, the at-large representative on the Albemarle County School Board, has written an op-ed in the Daily Progress. We'll talk about that today. Spillman and I don't see eye to eye on pretty much anything. This particular circumstance, my take, may surprise you. I'm going to ask you this question. Should elected officials be writing op-eds to media outlets, even with the caveat that what they're saying does not speak to their seat on the board or the county they represent? I want to talk about that on today's show. Like and share the show. Like and share the show. On today's program, we're also going to talk Virginia basketball, Heartbreak Hotel, against the Virginia Tech Hokies. Brutal loss to the Hokies. They were in it, a game Virginia easily could have won. And now it finds itself, the Wahoo's basketball team, fighting for its life for a berth in the ACC tournament. Not the NCAA tournament, but the ACC tournament. We'll talk about that today on the program. Are we live on LinkedIn there, J-Dubs? We are live on LinkedIn. Fantastic. Yeah. Appreciate you, Judah. And we're live on YouTube. Am I right there?
Yeah, we should be.
Oh, excellent work. So really, it's just a group. 15 Facebook pages, 15 Twitter accounts, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I mean, and we're going to add a few more social media channels here, ladies and gentlemen, to the I Love CVille network as we expand our reach. So like and share the program when you're ready. J-Dubs, if the group is the only one we're missing, why don't we rock and roll and get the group up when you're able to, my friend.
Quiet on the set.
And then give me a thumbs up if you could on the group. Please, sir. Good Monday afternoon, guys. Thank you kindly for joining us. My name is Jerry Miller. A pleasure to connect with you guys on the I Love CVille Network and our flagship show, the I Love CVille Show. This program airs Monday through Friday, 12:30 to 1:30, and we do our absolute best to bring content to you that no one else is talking about. Last week on the talk show, we had content with the Homeowners Association with Lake Monticello that legitimately got the president of the Lake Monticello HOA to send an email out to its members referencing our program. So we don't take lightly the influence and reach we have here. A lot I want to cover on today's program. We'll give you a snapshot into, I guess, my day-to-day life. Starts at before 6 a.m. and in a lot of cases, I'm heading to bed after midnight. And throughout that time, you'll appreciate this if you're self-employed. Even if you're not at work, you're thinking of work and you're working. And fortunately, January and as we head into February has been very busy for us. We have a number of deals in the hopper right now for clients. We'll talk business brokerage, what's been in the hopper, what is in the hopper on today's program. We'll talk UVA Health and the crossfire again. The crossfire for UVA Health applies to, Chief Cacciasolo, applies to minors as they had Judah Wickower to UVA Health and can no longer get the services, the medicine, the care they need for gender transitioning. The Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Virginia last week said, you're not going to do this anymore, UVA Health. You're not going to do this anymore, VCU. And UVA Health promptly responded. So again, an embattled health system finds itself under the microscope and in the crossfire of our community and our Commonwealth. And I have the pleasure of being friends with many folks that work for UVA Health, and the sense of demoralization with being in the crossfire is very tangible and palpable with that employee base. And I'm going to use that topic as kind of a springboard or a platform to transition into the next one. And that next one is Allison Spillman's op-ed in the Daily Progress. She writes commentary for the newspaper, which it publishes in totality. I mean, there was a time when I was working for the Daily Progress where it was extremely rare, even an elected official, it was extremely rare for anyone to be able to write something for the newspaper outside of letters to the editor and have that published in print or online in any capacity. Now the local paper of record, the Daily Progress, so hungry and so starving for content, it seems like just about anyone can get something in print. And Ms. Spillman's commentary, including the phrase, "There's blood on your hands," UVA. Blood on your hands. Is something I want to talk about on today's show. She is the at-large representative of the Albemarle County School Board. Ms. Spillman has a child that has transitioned gender-wise, a minor child that's transitioned gender-wise, and today's commentary is not going to be about the politics of minors transitioning. It's instead going to ask the question, should UVA Health be in the crossfire, and should the at-large representative on the Albemarle County School Board be offering her commentary in print in the paper of record on a topic that is a school board topic, a topic that applies to Albemarle County, its school board, its board of supervisors, and here you have an individual sounding off on a very real and raw topic for the community. I want to talk about that with you, the viewer and listener, with you, Judah Wickower, as well. If you're not following closely, the school resource officer and the metal detector storyline is very much a real possibility for Charlottesville Public Schools. I'm a huge proponent of school resource officers and metal detectors in high schools. Very interestingly, the same resource officers and the same metal detectors are alive and utilized for sporting events that are, popularly attended or deeply attended, but they're not at the schools themselves, which I just find absolutely confusing. We'll talk about that briefly on today's show. We'll talk James River Runners transitioning to new owners. James River Runners, ladies and gentlemen, is as important to Scottsville as any business in the town of Scottsville. In fact, we can all make a very convincing argument that there's no business more important to the town of Scottsville from an economic driver standpoint than James River Runners, where thousands, if not tens of thousands of customers visit the institutional business every year. Those customers patronize the businesses surrounding James River Runners. They fuel up at the gas station. They get beer at the local brewery, and they patronize the local restaurants. In a lot of cases, they get their first taste of Scottsville by floating on a tube in the James River. I want to ask you this question. Can you, the viewer and listener, and I don't have this answer, so I'm going to open it up to you, the viewer and listener. Can you think of a business in our region, in Central Virginia, that has the same influence and economic impact that James River Runners has on the town of Scottsville? The new owners of James River Runners, Chris Long is part of the ownership team. Chris Long and Tom Packett and Kevin Badke have purchased James River Runners. And these are, Tom and Chris are household names in our community. Tom's a staple at ACAC downtown, where the man is one of the strongest people putting work in the gym. The guy literally is lifting hundreds of pounds of weights every single day. Strong guy. And he goes from the solar business Tom does into what is a tremendous responsibility, opening a business in James River Runners that first started in 1979. I'm going to ask you, the viewer and listener, what business has the same influence, economic impact on their locality, on their area, that James River Runners has for the town of Scottsville? I think it's few and far between. I'm not going to include UVA on that list. Also on today's program, we'll let you know another business success story. A Charlottesville surgical instruments company, Micro Air, has acquired a French-based liposuction technology company. I'll give you those details on today's show. And also on the Monday edition of the I Love CVille program, we'll talk Nancy Muir and her interim position as the GOP chairwoman. What does Nancy Muir have to do to lead the Albemarle County Republican Party into its next phase of existence? A party that is probably trying really hard to try to capitalize on the success of Youngkin's victory and of Trump's victory. But how does that Commonwealth-wide victory and federal victory, United States-wide victory, trickle down to a county that very much bleeds blue? And we'll talk University of Virginia today as well. Judah Wickower, studio camera if you could, and then we'll give some props to our friends at Charlottesville Sanitary Supply, John Vermillion and Andrew Vermillion, online at charlottesvillesanitarysupply.com. Support the businesses you want to see last generations to come, folks. I mean, support them. Support the ones you want to see last generations to come. I sincerely mean that. And Charlottesville Sanitary Supply is one of them I want to see around when my kids have kids. 3 generations strong, Charlottesville Sanitary Supply. Judah Wickower on a 2-shot. The man is looking quite dapper, per usual. Headline, most intriguing to you this particular Monday afternoon, Judah, and why? Very curious, as always, on that question before we get into the rundown.
Well, I think the UVA health community being in the crossfire is hardly surprising. They seem to end up there quite a lot. But in this case, it's interesting. I don't believe they actually do any surgeries on minors. in this case. So I understand that some people are worried about other services that UVA may or may not have offered.
They do offer gender-affirming care. The University of Virginia does.
Okay.
So what your statement is not 100%, I guess you utilize the word surgery. UVA Health will no longer provide gender-affirming care for patients 19 years of age and under.
Yeah.
This means an end to Children's Hospital Transgender Youth Health Services, which included therapy referrals, puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and referrals for gender-affirming surgery. So UVA Health, the first step in a minor's transition, gender-wise. The show today is not about gender transformation.
Yep.
That's not what today's show is about. It's not about the politics associated with gender transformation. It's not about whether you think gender transformation for minors is right or wrong. It's not about that. Today's show is about UVA Health in the crossfire yet again. It has not been a good 12-month period of time for the health system.
No.
It has not been a good 5-year period of time for the health system. Are they making record-setting profits? Maybe so, probably so. The revenue generated by the health system is unfathomable for someone like me, someone like Judah, for probably you, the viewer and listener watching the program. Take a look into the billions and billions and billions of dollars that UVA Health is driving every single year through patient and hospital care. Today, the health system is in the crossfire because of something that initiates with Trump, trickles all the way down to the Commonwealth with the Attorney General. And the Attorney General last week said, you're not going to do this anymore. And then UVA immediately responds. And immediately after UVA responded, we're not going to offer gender-affirming care for youth that are looking to transition gender. There was a protest outside the health system on Friday. Not only was there a protest outside of the health system on Friday, but you now have a school board member, the at-large seat holder, Allison Spillman, writing op-eds to the Daily Progress on this very topic. She highlights Trump, the Attorney General of the Commonwealth, and the University of Virginia, and their decision to halt gender-affirming care for patients 19 and under as an unconscionable attack on the well-being of countless vulnerable young people. And she uses the phrase, you have blood on your hands. Blood on your hands. First, I want to talk, and the headlines that you should rotate on screeners, this one with UVA Health and the second one with Allison Spillman. The first question I'm going to throw to you is UVA Health in the crossfire having protesters outside the hospital? Is that legitimate? Is this UVA? Is it fair to UVA? There, in this case, they're in this kind of political and community crossfire.
I don't know that it's entirely fair. They are reacting to a federal mandate, and it could risk. It could risk a lot more than just gender-affirming care if the UVA health system stops receiving money from the federal government. So I think they're probably in this case doing taking the wise choice and figuring out what this means, figuring out how they open themselves up to further issues with the government if they don't comply, and I think they need to figure this out. Otherwise, it could affect, as I said, far more than just gender-affirming services and care.
Allison Spillman writing an op-ed to the Daily Progress on this, opining on her thoughts and her ideology as it applies to Donald Trump, the Commonwealth of Virginia, its leadership, its Attorney General, and now UVA Health and how it's going about running its business. Does the at-large member of the Albemarle County School Board should she be publishing in print? I mean, frankly, another question is, should the Daily Progress be publishing this? I'm going to give a take here. I haven't given an opinion on this, Allison Spillman. She and I 180 degrees on every on just about everything. Your thoughts on this, Judah Wickower? Which part do you?
It's an opinion. She wrote an opinion and they published it. Whether or not
should an elected official be utilizing the platform of not just her position, but of a board at large in a jurisdiction in totality to share her ideology and her thoughts as what she's going through as a mother of a child that has transitioned?
I mean, based on the fact that she is the mother of a child who's transitioned, I can definitely see her skin in the game. I don't fault her for taking a strong stance.
On the bottom of her commentary that was published in the Daily Progress, it says this caveat: Allison Spillman is an at-large member of the Albemarle County School Board and the mother of a transgender daughter. The views expressed here are her own and do not reflect the views of the Albemarle County School Board or Albemarle County Public Schools. I think the community may be surprised by this. Allison Spillman absolutely has a right to share her thoughts and give her opinion on this topic. She is the mother of a minor who has transitioned gender-wise. And I don't care, it's the take I'm giving here is not about the politics about a minor changing their gender. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to offer any commentary on that. I will offer commentary as a father of two boys. There's nothing that my wife and I would not do for our two sons. We would go to hell and back for our boys, if need be. I said last week what my version of the American dream was. This is a topic that came up at a double date on Saturday night we had with another couple at the Alley Light. I asked them, what's your version of the American dream? When they said, what's yours, Jerry? And I spoke for my wife, which I rarely do because I knew what her answer was. Our version of the American dream is a life for our children that is better than the life that she and I had growing up. And both of us had pretty good lives as kids. Our parents, two-parent households, did really well by my wife and I. And we're trying to provide an even better life for our two boys than what we had. And that's difficult because of how awesome my parents were and her parents are. Allison Spillman is trying to do the same for her daughter. Mm-hmm. And I'm quite confident that her daughter has faced challenges that other kids have not. So Allison offering this, Miss Spillman offering this perspective in print is something that I commend her, that she has the courage to do this. I find it refreshing and invigorating that we live in a world today where elected officials offer us a look into their household and the vulnerability that resides in said household. Mm-hmm. So I commend Ms. Spillman, maybe the first time on this talk show, outside of when I said she ran a strategic campaign and the fact that she beat Dr. Meg Bryce in such convincing fashion was associated with her strategic campaign. I gave her props then, and I'm giving her props now. I think she 100% should do this. I'd like to see more elected officials do this. Michael Payne does a really good job of this. Lloyd Snook does a good job of this, sharing their thoughts on social media with the written or spoken word. Should the Daily Progress have published this as they did? I'm surprised they did. When I worked for the Progress a long time ago, goodness gracious, approaching 20 years ago, we did not do this. The spot for something like this was the letters to the editor. It was not written in such op-ed fashion, such commentary fashion. But when the at-large member of the Albemarle County School Board goes after the Attorney General of Virginia, UVA Health, and Donald Trump, she's very much letting the community know what her politics are. Will that create potential friction for her during a school board meeting? Who knows? Perhaps. But one thing it does offer is a sense of communication and transparency. We know where she stands. And it's in writing. And I commend her for that. As far as UVA Health goes, this organization cannot seem to catch a break. Yeah. And a lot of it is on their own doing. There's no place for changing medical charts and fraudulently billing people and backroom dealing and bullying when it comes to promotions and leveraging the promotions to get middle management and upper management to toe the company line of what the C-suite wants. And that's happening right now. There's no place for that in any organization. But in this particular circumstance, UVA Health was put in a position that was unattainable, was put in a position that no one would want to be in. You have the top attorney in the Commonwealth telling them what to do, and then they did it. And now you have hundreds of people protesting outside the health system, throwing the proverbial tomatoes on the white coats walking in and out of the hospital, hurling the nastiest of commentary as the frontline heroes, nurses, walk in and out of the hospital. At a time where the white coats and the frontline scrub-wearing nurses are stretched as thin as possible and as tired and as exasperated as they've ever been. And that sucks. And my commentary here was not about politics. It was not about whether minors should transition or not. It was just about facts that are happening in our community. Anything you want to add to that? Viewers and listeners, let us know your thoughts. I'll put them live on the feed. Bill McChesney says, Ms. Spillman's commentary speaks to the attitude of the school board. He also says Ms. Spillman has a right to express her views under the First Amendment. Whether that is politically good or not is a different story. Vanessa Parkhill says, I support Allison Spillman's right to share her perspective. She also says, Vanessa Parkhill does, as you're rotating photos on the screen, I don't think Supervisor Spillman, it's school board member Spillman, just point of clarity there, will experience significant negative political consequence given the general political leanings of Charlottesville and Albemarle County. I agree with Vanessa Parkhill. Yeah. I think those that would have conflicting views with Ms. Spillman, with her commentary in the Daily Progress, those parents have students in private schools. And they're not going to be showing up to school board meetings. Bill McChesney says, in response to Vanessa Parkhill, it's a risk you take when you work in the public space, sharing commentary like that. But Mr. McChesney is 100% right. Deep throat, offering some perspective, and then we'll go to the next topic. To the specific question of whether it is appropriate for her to publish an op-ed, he says, I'm glad she did. We can now all see how crazy she is. Then he goes on with some commentary that I'm not going to read on air about the transition of her minor age offspring. And then he closes, I will say this, hopefully at the next elections, she won't be able to just scream Meg Bryce's last maiden name, her maiden name, to win an election. Then he adds, the interesting thing about Trump 2.0 is that the get 50 people to stomp around and make noise on the sidewalk and the institution caves don't work anymore. UVA Health won't defy the EOs, too much money at stake, and the state and federal government is not going to budge. That's to the point that Judah has made in his earlier commentary. It still is a position. Friends with folks that work there, to say that they are demoralized and just beaten down with what's happened over the 12 months alone with their employer is an understatement. It's almost to the point where it's when the name tag is on and you're not in the hospital and you have the badge on your person, you're quick to pull it off and put it in your pocket to hide it. for fear of what someone in the community is going to say about you wearing that name tag and that badge on it with the UVA Health moniker on the tag or the badge. And that sucks because it's the very few in this organization that has thousands of employees in it. It's the very few that are giving the organization a bad name. And think about that. That sucks. Mm-hmm. Few people are giving an organization of thousands of people a terrible name.
Yeah.
But that's today's reality. Anything you want to add on this before we go to the next topic? Maria Marshall Barnes, welcome to the program. Thank you for watching the show. Stacy Baker Patty, welcome to the program. If you disagree with me, let me know. I don't mind if people disagree with me. I want disagreement. I want all the perspectives on the show. We are of the mindset that we want any of the perspectives on the program. Next headline, what do you got, Judah? And John, I think your answer to which business has as significant of an impact to a locality like James River Runners with Scottsville, your answer is the one I was going to come up with as well. Is the next headline the James River Runners one?
Yep.
All right, so James River Runners has new owners. And Chris Long is one of those owners, along with Tom Packett and Kevin Banke. The previous owners have done a great job of stewarding a business that was started in 1979 by Jeff and Christy Schmick. And the previous owners, Chris Wilkes and his wife, decided to sell. And Chris and his wife have been the owners of James River Runners since 2007. And since 2007, Chris and his wife have done a fantastic job of stewarding an institutional brand, James River Runners. And I can use the phrase institutional when you've been around since 1979. So since 1979, Judah, that makes this business, James River Runners, in its 46th year and approaching a milestone anniversary of 50.
No doubt.
And now the third generation, or the third owners, not generation, but third owners, including one of the greatest football players in Virginia history, a product of St. Anne's Belfield Academy, who lives here, Chris Long, are going to take James River Runners and move it forward. Have you floated the James before?
I have not.
Wow. It is a awesome pastime. So much so where I don't think it's quite on the list of things that Judah has not done, like not eaten Chick-fil-A or never had a photo taken with Santa Claus, right? But it's very close to it. Hopefully you do it this summer if you have an opportunity.
I'll put it on my list.
James, why don't we put it on the list? What else is on that list, just out of curiosity? In the most kind way, asking what else is on that list.
Let's see. I gotta find the list.
Not eating Chick-fil-A, no photo with Santa Claus, things that Judah's never done.
We got the Chick-fil-A out of the way.
Oh, you've eaten at Chick-fil-A once? That was recent?
It was last year.
Okay, so that's not on the list. What else is on there?
Go to Reed's.
Oh, well, Reed's, you can't go to Reed's Grocery anymore. Did you ever go to Reed's before they closed?
I didn't.
Oh, goodness gracious. What else is on there?
Yellowstone.
Never watched the show Yellowstone. Okay. That was probably the least of importance or significance on that list.
Yeah.
Put Never Floated the River on the James. I'm going to ask you this question, viewers and listeners. Ginny Who says this, if you put her photo on screen. She said, I worked at James River Runners for 15 summers. The majority of those are for the original owners. It's going to take a lot to bring it back to its former glory. She also says, Chris Long and other football players were regulars when I worked there. Back then, we had things down to a science and could run 900 tubes on a Saturday and another 600 on a Sunday. Wow. But we could do that because of great relationships with our neighbors in the area. The most recent owners, and these are Ginny Who's words, the most recent owners did have those relationships with the neighbors. She also adds, we were also good stewards of both the river and Hatton Ferry Road. We did regular river sweeps to clean up trash Try hauling old tires out in a canoe and clean garbage from the roadside. Thank you, Ginny Hu, for those. Nice. I'm going to add this question, or this topic for the show today. And you can rotate the lower thirds on screen for us if you could, please, sir. Is there a business in Central Virginia that has more significance or influence or impact on its neighborhood, on its locality, than James River Runners has on the town of Scottsville? There's only one I can potentially think of. Only one, and I'll give you that answer. John Blair, that was the one I was thinking of as well. The town of Scottsville, if James River Runners did not exist, its economy would be significantly more vulnerable and weak. The summer months when James River Runners is open and thousands of customers every week get on that river and go down that, on tubes down that river.
Like Ginny said, 900 on Saturday, 600 on
That's
Sunday.
1,500, and that doesn't even include the customers during the week.
Yeah.
That is, in a lot of ways, the economy for the town of Scottsville. Think about it. The only other business locally that has that kind of economic impact is John Shabe's Pro Renata in Crozet. And since John Shabe's Pro Renata in Crozet has opened, and it's extremely popular, and it gets a boatload of people coming. The venue is a music venue. It's a restaurant. It's a playground. It's a brewery. It's a bar. It's a sports bar. I've called it the Disney World of Crozet. But Crozet has a lot of additional offerings outside of Pro Renata.
Yeah.
You got the offerings in Piedmont Place. You have Star Hill. You have Crozet Pizza. You have parks. You have a lot of additional offerings. You have Old Trail. You have golf. Scottsville has James River Runners. Mm-hmm. You can make a legitimate argument that that business has a greater economic impact on its neighborhood and its locality than any other business does, except for the University of Virginia. Give me one, viewers and listeners. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong, Judah Wickower. Lonnie Murray said Ragged Mountain Running Shop. Ragged Mountain Running Shop in the Lorenzoni is an institutional business, not pushing back on anything Ragged Mountain Running Shop. But Ragged Mountain Running Shop, on the impact it has on the city of Charlottesville, is not what James River Runners has on the town of Scottsville.
No.
Give me one. And to Lonnie's point, the Lorenzonis are not just selling shoes, walking and running, and apparel on Elliewood Avenue. He's going to make the argument that they're also putting on races, 10-miler and 5Ks all around town. And Lonnie, that's a fair point. It's a fair point. But I don't think it's to the extent of what James River Runners has with the town of Scottsville. John Blair, I think you're correct about James River Runners having the greatest impact on the single locality. John Blair's photo on screen. However, a couple thoughts. Pro Renata is an enormous draw for Crozet. That's the one I was thinking about. Oh, and he also highlights, this is a damn good one from John. Wintergreen for Nelson County.
Yeah.
That's one, John. That's a good one, John Blair. Props to John Blair on that one. Massanutten for Rockingham County. I'll give you, those are, Wintergreen I should have thought of. There's a synonymous answer right there. Wintergreen with Nelson County. You take Wintergreen out of Nelson County, and Wintergreen and Nelson County's economy, I don't want to say collapses, but is a shadow of its former self. Massanutten with Rockingham County, I'll say Massanutten out of Central Virginia, so I'm not going to have that for the sake of this talk show, because we're Central Virginia focused. Wintergreen is one that's right there with James River Runners for importance.
Yeah.
This is a pretty big news story, guys. A local boy who attends the University of Virginia and has fantastic success, goes to the National Football League and makes millions, returns to his home, creates a nonprofit, raises his kids in his home, Chris Long, partners with 2 other guys, another one that worked for a solar company that you see regularly working out at ACAC downtown or walking the downtown mall, buy a business that is approaching 50 years of anniversary and now are the ones trusted with not just stewarding the business, but driving the town of Scottsville's economy forward. That's a significant news story there.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add to that?
No.
Next headline, what do you got?
Next up, we've got Dairy Market.
Okay, how about this? I've been itching for a sports bar locally, and couple dot the i's on the previous topic. The only pushback he has on Wintergreen, deep throat on John Blair. He says the only pushback I would have on Wintergreen is that the direct employment is overwhelmingly H-2B guest workers, tons from Peru this year. It isn't truly local employment. So that's the pushback on Mr. Blair's Wintergreen comment. And I would push back respectfully a little bit on Deep Throat's comment by saying that the folks that are visiting Wintergreen and spending money in Wintergreen and skiing the slopes are still driving the tax base for Nelson County.
Yeah.
The next one, Dairy Market, South and Central, we have more clarity on what's going to happen. And I was at Dairy Market yesterday. It's a ghost town. Dino's Sizzle Shack is not open yet. Cumbre has not opened their second location yet, the bakery. There's this child's play space that is in Dairy Market right now that was meagerly patronized. And there's Take It Away is still vacant. Chim has rebranded over there. There was like 4 people in Star Hill. I don't see how in HE double hockey sticks Star Hill Brewery is surviving there.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I've never seen it with more than a handful of people in there.
My wife and I have been there numerous times. I while waiting for the pizza to be made at Dino's, there was like a 20-minute wait. I went and had a beer at Dairy Market at the Milkman's bar, and the bartender said she hadn't seen a customer in a long time. So much so that they're offering happy hour pretty much all the time. So if happy hour is all the time and it's $4 beers and the menu by the Milkman's bar says they're $8 or $9 beers, why is the menu up there? The beer was half price. And I just sat around and as a social voyeur looked around, and it was 15% populated on a Sunday, on a weekend, when it was cold outside. And people aren't eating outside on the mall or patronizing the mall.
Yeah.
They would be inside on cold days like this. Mm-hmm. They would not be outside.
100%.
And it was 15% maybe patronized. So the idea is to bring an omni-experiential business model in the old South and Central location. You take away the high-dollar steak joint that requires a lot of labor, and you replace it with an approachable concept that's experiential, darts, duck pins, and a sports bar. Mm-hmm. Let's see if it works. Either way, I salute Stony Point and their ownership team for trying different concepts.
Yeah.
They are quick to point out that Dairy Market is an incubator for business, and we're going to have turnover. Yeah. That's managing perception in some ways. That's also the case and the truth in some ways. It's both, right? So duck pins, darts, and a sports bar coming to South and Central. I ask this question. It's a very fair question. If you're Star Hill, the brewery at Dairy Market, aren't you in a lot of ways a sports bar? There's TVs all over Star Hill, and all it's showing are sports. Is your other anchor tenant also going to be a sports bar competing for the meager customer base that Star Hill has at Dairy Market?
Unless one or the other of them can ignite some interest in having a sports bar. Who knows? Do we know if there have been any efforts from Star Hill to get the word out that they could be a sports bar? Or do they just rely? I don't know. I would think that the first person to get the word out will probably be doing better than the other. Star Hill hasn't pushed for this. Who knows?
I'll throw this, and then Mr. Blair, I'm going to go to your comments next. This is the next question I have for you, and this is a topic for a different show. The young millennials. You have the generational graph you can put on screen. Tell us when that's on screen, and then let us know the categories, the monikers for the young millennials, and their categories, what they're called after young millennials.
Let's see.
Is it on screen?
Yeah.
Look at the screen, viewers and listeners. So millennials is what? 1980?
81 to 96.
Okay, 81 to 96. All right. What's the one right after that?
Next would be Generation Z.
Gen Zers are drinking right now. Okay.
97 to 2012. Some of them are drinking.
Okay, the old Gen Zers are drinking. The young millennials and the old Gen Zers are not drinking to the same clip that old millennials. And what was yours? You were?
I'm
Gen X.
Gen X.
Old millennials and Gen Xers, we drank at a greater clip than young millennials and old Gen Zers. Mm-hmm. Is that what's creating this dearth of customer? Or do you straight chalk it up to the location? I mean, the location is got signage that says free parking now. It's within walking distance of UVA. There's a parking lot on site. There's multiple neighborhoods surrounding it. Mm-hmm. It's on a bus line.
Yeah.
It's got advertising and marketing. It's got a number of different cuisines. There's apartment on top of it, with apartment units on top of it. Hundreds of apartments on it. Mm-hmm. I mean, what is it here? It's cold outside and dreary. It's not the competition from outside. What is it here?
There's just something about Charlottesville. Just does not seem welcoming to me to a walker. Some people do it because they have to, but I've always felt like Charlottesville was all these disparate points that even though they're not very far from each other, just don't really feel connected to me. I think that may be part of the problem. Obviously,
you chalk it up to
COVID-19 had some effect on.
I think that's something that should be not underestimated.
Yeah, but even without COVID-19, Charlottesville is a small place that feels like it's a lot bigger, and just doesn't seem very ped friendly.
Pedestrian?
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. That's 100% fair. John Blair says, here's a nice piece of nostalgia for you and James Watson. The three of us have been around here for a long time. Before they exploded, I'm sure you both recall the market at Bel Air was truly packed like crazy and was probably the busiest non-Boar's Head business in Ivy. I recall a time, again, before they put the sandwiches in many locations, that there was a line for every lunch and dinner time from, say, 2001 to 2010 at Bel Air. Not the same effect as James River Runners, but it was an enormous business for Ivy for a while. Great comment from John Blair. Make the program better all the time, John Blair. I've been here 25 years. I've been eating at that Bel Air for most of the time. And even to this day, I drive by Bel Air at least twice a day, coming in and coming out now. I drive by. We ate Bel Air on Friday. My wife likes the Ednam. I get the Keswick. There's always a line for sandwiches at that place. I've said on this talk show numerous times that the food and beverage business that does the most revenue, not named Chick-fil-A or not named Starbucks, in the Central Virginia region is the Sutton's markets at Tiger Fuel Markets. Strategically located, Class A spots, parking on site, tremendous volume. I put them in the 3 slot. I'll say Chick-fil-A 1, Starbucks 2, although Starbucks is down. You see Starbucks is cutting a large percentage of its menu? Starbucks right now can't figure out its business. It's got a new CEO, It can't figure out its business. It's not the same Howard Schultz as Starbucks. It cannot figure it out. Chick-fil-A's got this effing dialed in. You explain to me a business. Explain to me this. Chick-fil-A chooses not to be open on Sundays, is openly vocal about its politics, about where it stands when it comes to heterosexuality and homosexuality, where it stands with how it votes, where it stands with conversation, with talking points like transgender.
Yeah.
It's only open 6 days a week, not open one of the busiest days of the week, and it chooses not to be open on Sunday for the reason of God rested on Sunday. And still in this community, it crushes and stacks paper and mints money and drives the most revenue of any business, food and beverage-wise, in the community.
Yeah.
How does that work? When the community is so quick to cancel based on those very reasons, it has not canceled Chick-fil-A. How does that work? It's not like there's a lack of fried chicken competition. Bojangles, Raising Cane's, KFC, Popeyes. The whole cock block on 29 on Emmett, the cock block is loaded with fried chicken.
Yeah.
It's like 5 or 6 of them in less than a mile on the cock block. Why hasn't Chick-fil-A been canceled? It's because the customer service and the food is that good. It's not like it's even cheap to eat there anymore. It's the customer service and the food is that good.
Yeah, and I think they just don't care and they don't respond. I think too often, somebody starts a protest or
the whole Reddit thread, cancel the business.
Did they even mention? They probably did mention Chick-fil-A.
No, some of the people that were like, oh, you want to cancel all these businesses? Well, you better stop going to Lowe's, eating at Chick-fil-A, using your iPhone.
Yeah.
Right? Using your iPhone, getting on Xfinity, getting on Facebook and Instagram, buying anything from Amazon, cancel your Prime membership, and then once that person rattled off all the things you had to do if you want to cancel these locally owned businesses because of your politics and your ideology, and then they rattled off, Mark Zuckerberg is Trump's homie, and you're on Facebook and Instagram all the day. Reddit is using Amazon Web Services to stay on board, and you're using Reddit every day. You got a Prime membership. You're driving around in a Tesla. You're eating Chick-fil-A every day, and then you're getting your hammers and nails and your painter's tape at Lowe's and Home Depot, and then once they put it that way, all the people that were trying to cancel the locally owned business were like, oh my God, I can't live. I can't even breathe without these businesses.
I don't think they really responded that way, but yeah.
I mean, to a certain extent.
Oh, well, if they were actually going to put their money where their mouth is.
Right. If they were going to put their money where their mouth is. But they don't, and what's that called?
Hypocrisy.
Is that your words, not mine, right there? Next topic, what do you got?
Next, we've got CVille Surgical Biz acquires French Lipotech.
All right, this is a good piece of business brokerage news. Charlottesville Micro Air Surgical Instruments has acquired Neo Syad, a liposuction technology company headquartered in France. Micro Air already offers instruments for liposuction, namely a handpiece for power-assisted liposuction, and with the deal, it gains Addimate, Neosciad's all-in-one product and proprietary software that combines infiltration, liposuction, adipose tissue, aka fatty tissue engineering functions. The product is set to help optimize operating times. So a Charlottesville surgical instruments company, Micro Air, buys a French-based liposuction technology company. Love success stories like that. Final headline, what do you got? Judah Whitcower, we already covered the Spillman one.
Oh, we've got...
Is it the Heartbreak Hotel? Oh, we got Nancy Muir.
Nancy Muir.
Nancy Muir is the interim GOP chair, the interim chairwoman for the Albemarle County Republican Party, takes over for John Lowry, who surprisingly resigned late last year. Nancy Muir is now the leader of a Republican Party that's trying to capitalize on the success at a Commonwealth-wide level with Youngkin and at, obviously, the federal level with Trump. What does Nancy Muir have to do to make the Albemarle County Republican Party relevant? Judah, your thoughts.
I would say find some candidates for some of the opening seats.
And
We've got
each
seats opening up in Albemarle County Board of Supervisors, and I would say the best thing you could do is start getting loud, get some people running for those seats, and go out and talk to people.
she needs to. Nancy Muir is a fantastic person, and she's a hard worker and she's diligent. I know Nancy Muir well. I was slightly surprised that Nancy Muir was the interim chair. I wonder if it's an indication that nobody else wanted the position. And I'm not throwing shade at all. I'm not throwing shade at all. But if Albemarle County's Republican Party wants to become more relevant, the party needs to figure out a way to make itself younger. Youngify the party. A lot of the challenges that are happening with the Albemarle County Republican Party are similar challenges that the Regional Chamber of Commerce is facing. Membership is aging. And that aging membership is a challenge to overcome. You need to figure out a way to youngify the party, whether that's social media, digital marketing, in-person events, things like that. Youngify the party is what you got to do, Nancy Muir. Then the final topic on today's show is something we're going to talk about on the Jerry and Jerry show. And it's, frankly, the Virginia men's basketball team losing to Virginia Tech. It was Heartbreak Hotel at the John Paul Jones Arena. And Virginia men's basketball, ladies and gentlemen, is they have Pittsburgh on the docket tonight, 7 o'clock. Another must-win game. Remember, the last three teams in the Atlantic Coast Conference regular season standings do not make the ACC tournament. The bottom three teams in the ACC standings do not make the conference tournament. So don't fall in the bottom three. And Pittsburgh and the rest of this regular season slate are just brutal for Virginia as they get into the meat and the potatoes of the schedule. We'll talk about it tomorrow at 10:15 a.m. with Jerry Ratcliffe on the Jerry and Jerry Show. So long, everybody.